If someone kills someone that I love, I want vengeance, and I think that's part of justice.
Justice is about righting a wrong that society deems as morally indecent. When carried out effectively, justice protects both the individual and the society. It's all about restoring balance and being as objective and even-handed as possible to all parties involved. Revenge is mainly an emotional response of wanting to get even. It usually corrupts the avenger, lowering their morals to that of the perpetrator, thinking that two wrongs can make a right. Revenge repeats itself endlessly, spewing rage and hatred. The intent of revenge is to harm and retaliate against wrongdoing. In a video message to participants at the Sixth World Congress Against the Death Penalty, Pope Francis said that the death penalty does not render justice to victims, but instead fosters vengeance. The commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," has absolute value and applies both to the innocent and to the guilty. A case I would like to talk about is the 1995 bombing of a federal building in Oklahoma City. 168 innocent lives were taken, along with 500 more people injured. The perpetrators of this crime were Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. Both men were said to have very strong anti-government viewpoints. What was their motive for the crime? 2 years prior, the FBI raided and burnt down an anti-government organization's headquarters, resulting in the death of 80 of its members. It was said that the bombing was to avenge those 80 lives. Terry Nichols was found guilty of 1 count of conspiracy and 8 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Later on in a state trial, Nichols was charged with 160 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of first-degree manslaughter, and 1 count of aiding in the placement of a bomb near a public building. In 2004, he was convicted of all charges and sentenced to 160 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. In 1997, McVeigh was convicted of 15 counts of murder and conspiracy. 2 months later, under unanimous decision made by the jury, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. 3 years later, McVeigh requested that all appeals to his convictions be stopped and to set a date for his execution. His execution in 2001 was the first federal death penalty to be carried out since 1963. This is Bud Welch. His daughter, Julie, was one of the victims of the bombing. When the perpetrators were caught, all he wanted was vengeance. For weeks, he had poured his grief into alcohol. There were many days where he visited the bomb site, either drunk or hungover, but one day he had a sudden realization. He realized the desire for vengeance was the reason why his daughter and the others were killed in the first place. Shortly after, he started speaking out against the death penalty. However, his efforts didn't work, and Timothy McVeigh was sentenced to death. After seeing footage of McVeigh's father on the news, Bud decided to meet him. It was evident that there were more victims of this horrible crime than those killed and their loved ones. In an article, Bud Welch said, "I had found someone who was a bigger victim of the Oklahoma bombing than I was, because while I can speak in front of thousands of people and say wonderful things about Julie, if Bill McVeigh meets a stranger, he probably doesn't even say he had a son." 6 months after the bombing, a poll was taken by the families of the victims. 85% wanted Timothy McVeigh to be executed. 6 years later, the percentage had dropped to half. Most people think his execution was a mistake, saying that it didn't bring them any closure about losing their loved ones. Going against popular belief, the death penalty doesn't relieve the families of their suffering. Instead, it just extends that suffering to the family of the condemned person.